Now, most retirement advice tells you how to plan for two. But if you're solo, you can't just take a couples-based plan and divide it in half. It doesn't work that way. A solo retirement plan is a different operating model. It's one that's built around greater control, flexibility, and the ability to design a retirement around one person's actual needs. And today we're looking at 5 structural strengths that solo Gen Xers can build their own retirement around. But we're not just going to celebrate those strengths. We're going to use them tactically. We'll look at each one and how it works in our favor, where it can turn into a blind spot, and how to reinforce the weak point so that strength continues to serve us as we get older. Now, solo retirement does come with some real pressure points. There's no second income unless you create it. There's no 2 Social Security checks, and no built-in person who automatically steps in when a crisis happens. And this is a video that I wanted to make because as a single person planning my own retirement, I get frustrated that retirement planning is still so often discussed and assumed that it's always a retirement based on a couple. And I'll show you why you don't always have to have a spouse in order to have a bulletproof plan. Now, I'm not getting into specific numbers, not in this video, but I am focusing on the particular realities that we're working with as a household of one, and how we can use its strengths deliberately while preparing for the places where one person living may need reinforcement. So let's start with the first one, tactical confidence. Number 1 is to trust your judgment and then add checkpoints. The first solo strength is confidence. If you're retiring solo, you have to trust your ability to make decisions, because there isn't another person standing beside you confirming every choice. Like, when should I retire? Or should I move? Should I downsize? Or should I spend the money? Or walk away from something that no longer works? A solo retiree has to get comfortable making those calls. And most all solo Gen Xers, they already possess that strength. They've been using it for years. We've spent years managing our own money, solving our own problems, making hard choices, and figuring things out without waiting for someone else to approve the plan. And that confidence matters because retirement won't stay the same, and the decisions don't necessarily get easier with age either. Your health may change, your expenses may change, your family responsibilities may change, the house may stop working for you. The retirement you planned at 60 may need to look a lot different at 70. And one of your strengths as a solo person is that you can make those decisions without having to wait for a second person to agree before you can move forward. But confidence can also become overconfidence, because one decision maker can easily become this closed decision loop. And that's when your confidence starts sounding like, well, I've always done it this way. And I've always handled everything myself. And I know what I'm doing. And that can make it easier to fall for a scam or rush into decisions, ignore a health concern, or build a retirement plan around assumptions that nobody has challenged. So the tactical move isn't to give up control. It's to add checkpoints. And just because you're doing life solo doesn't mean that every important decision has to be made alone. Get a second estimate. Sleep on major purchases. Test a new location before moving there permanently. Ask for another medical opinion. And research the decision and instead of just relying totally on instinct. Even let one trusted person question the plan before you make a major financial or housing or healthcare decision. Now, that doesn't mean, opening the door to everyone that thinks they know what's best for you. Solo people get plenty of unsolicited advice already. The goal isn't to hand over your decision making. It's to choose whose judgment you respect. And when a second point of view might protect you from a blind spot. Solo retirement requires confidence because nobody else is going to live your life for you. Confidence should help you make better and stronger decisions, but it shouldn't convince you that you never need another perspective. Where do I need to trust myself more, and where do I need maybe a second set of eyes? Trusting your judgment is the foundation, and once you have that, you can use it to build a life that actually fits your specific needs without the usual compromises. Number 2 is to design for one, but leave room to evolve. Now, the second tactical strength is precision. Now, a couple has to build a retirement that will work for 2 different people. One wants to travel, while the other one wants to stay closer to home. One wants a low-maintenance condo, and the other wants to keep the big house with the 2 acres. And one wants to eat out at restaurants more often, and the other just wants to eat in. And that doesn't make a couple's retirement bad. It just means the final plan usually involves compromise. And it's not that solo people never have to compromise. We do it all the time. We live in a couples-based world. And another example, I'm left-handed, living in a right-handed world. I'm used to compromising there. All my fellow lefties know what I'm talking about. But when your life doesn't fit the conventional 2-person model, it can be easy to assume that your options have to be smaller too. But they don't. You're already off the conventional track, so you don't have to build a conventional retirement. You can create something different, something highly personal, or something that might never work for a couple. Don't let the world, shrink your vision just because your life doesn't fit its standard template. A solo retiree can design a retirement with much more precision because only one person's needs and budget and temperament and vision need to fit that plan. You can choose where you want to live and how you want to spend your time and what kind of daily life actually fits you. You don't have to build a retirement that's acceptable to 2 people. You can build one that fits one person exceptionally well. And that's the real strength. But precision does have risk. If you've been on your own for a long time, it can become very easy to become set in your ways. My house, my routine, my schedule, my way or the highway. And maybe you've had to fight tooth and nail to build the life that you have now. Maybe you've worked really hard to create stability and peace and financial control after years of not having enough of it. But just because you've fought hard for the life you have now, that doesn't mean that that exact version of your life is going to serve you the best later on. We can be precise, but also be flexible. That house that's great at 62 may not be that manageable at 75. And as a solo retiree, you have permission to change that plan. You don't want to design retirement so precisely around your present life that it can't bend later. But this can flip the other way too. Maybe after a divorce, you simply settled into the life that fell into place after you picked up the pieces. Maybe being single has made money tight for years, and you've gotten used to thinking mainly about the things you can't do. And without somebody beside you, encouraging you, supporting you, even challenging you, you may have gotten used to just playing it safe. You keep postponing the life change that you're saying you're going to make someday. And precision doesn't require unlimited money. And the life that you accepted during one season doesn't have to be the same life that you carry into your retirement. It means getting honest about what matters most and using the flexibility that you do have where it counts. And maybe you can't afford the perfect retirement, but you may still be able to create one that fits you better than the life that you simply drifted into. And the tactical move is to design for more than one future version of yourself. Not just the person you are now, but for the person you may also still become. Number 3 is protect your capacity. And the third solo strength is your ability to do that. And by capacity, I mean your time, energy, patience, physical ability, and emotional bandwidth. When you're solo, there may not be another person who can automatically absorb the overflow when you're exhausted or sick or overwhelmed. So margin matters. Margin in your schedule, margin in your budget, margin in your responsibilities, and margin in how much access other people have to your time. But protecting your capacity isn't only about leaving room on the calendar. It also means taking responsibility for the physical and mental capacity that your independence depends on. Now, when you live alone, your health, it isn't just a wellness issue. It's a part of your retirement infrastructure. As a solo, you need to pay closer attention to changes in your health. Understand the care that you're receiving, and go into appointments prepared to speak up for yourself. Because those are things that a partner or a spouse might sometimes notice or remember or question on your behalf. Now, you don't have to become your own doctor, but you do need to become your own advocate. And protecting your capacity isn't only about preserving what your body and mind can do, it's also about being careful where that capacity gets spent. Protecting your capacity also means safeguarding your boundaries. Now, single people know how it is when the other people in their lives, whether it's family, friends, employers, they often think that single people just have a lot more time available. That at work, you may be expected to stay late because supposedly no one's waiting for you at home. In extended families, you may be the one that's expected to take on extra responsibility. And once you retire, people may assume that because you're no longer working, that your time is suddenly up for grabs. I hear about this happening all the time with people when they retire. And sometimes people don't even realize they're doing it. But without limits, other people's needs can slowly consume the retirement that you worked so hard to build. Capacity protection means deciding what you can realistically give without letting everybody else's needs take over your life. So ask yourself, where do I need a firmer boundary before retirement? Number 4 is make life easier to operate. The 4th solo strength is the ability to build a leaner operating system. And I don't just mean owning less. I mean creating less work. Because when you're solo, every bill, repair, appointment, errand, every household problem, well, it all eventually comes back to you. And it's the accumulation of all of that that wears you down. So the tactical move is to reduce the number of moving parts in your life. And that might mean simplifying your home, or streamlining your finances, or using delivery or automation where it can really help, and letting technology take on some of the mental load. I mean, face it, Gen X, we can be weirdly proud of doing things the hard way. We figured things out. We fixed things ourselves. We didn't expect anyone else to do it for us. And that's served us well, for better or for worse. But convenience isn't laziness if it protects your time, your energy, and independence. And this doesn't mean having to spend a lot of money. Sometimes the biggest improvement can simply be creating a better routine, putting important information where you can find it, or finally fixing the small problem that you keep having to fix over and over again. Now, the goal is simple. You want a retirement that creates less work than the life you're living now. So ask yourself, what keeps creating unnecessary work in my life? And how can I make it easier before retirement? Number 5 is to build support by function. The 5th solo strength to capitalize on is the ability to build support by function. A solo person doesn't need one human being to be the backup for everything. Different needs can be handled by different people, even professional services and technology. Maybe a neighbor has access to your home, or maybe you and another solo friend, you decide to be each other's medical procedure person, the one who will provide a ride, or just go for support, the one that checks in afterwards. Maybe you keep a small emergency fund specifically for the help that can't be handled by a friend, like pet care or home repairs, transportation, or short-term assistance after an illness. Technology can be used and set up to alert someone during an emergency. And a professional can be used for legal and financial matters, especially if you're not confident in those areas. The point is to build support around specific needs instead of expecting one relationship to carry all of them. And when possible, support should go both ways. Maybe you and another solo friend check in on each other, or trade the kinds of help each one of you is good at giving. One person may be better with paperwork, the other may be better in a crisis. It doesn't have to look like traditional family support to be dependable. So ask yourself, which parts of my future life needs backup, and who or what will provide it? So here's the test. Imagine somebody handed you a standard retirement plan written for a typical married couple, and they told you to just divide it in half. Would that strategy hold up? No. Because solo retirement isn't just a scaled down version of a two-person retirement. It has its own design. Gen X has spent a lifetime of figuring things out. But this time we don't have to wing it. We can build it deliberately. Not for two, not for some imaginary future household, but built for one. And let me know your own strategies for navigating your own solo retirement planning. And Gen X, we're all trying to figure out what comes next. So please subscribe and join us if you haven't already. Okay, I'll catch you on the flip side. See you later.